Hello, this is Anirban Saha, and you are listening to one new episode of Season 1, where we interview an informatics student doing a student job here in Magdeburg. Today we have with us Sejal Shahania, who studies data and knowledge engineering. She worked as a student in a startup based in Magdeburg before, and she has been a tutor for the machine learning courses for 2 semesters and 1 semester for the Introduction to Deep Learning course. She has been a former mentor at the Fin department and a member of the academic club.
Correct.
Welcome.
Thank you. Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Congratulations so much on your getting the Otto von Guericke scholarship.
Thank you.
It is extremely prestigious and you know that.
Yeah, I feel lucky because I'm the first DK student to get it. So yeah.
In this interview, we will speak very briefly about your job, a little about students and the differences in the work culture and where students falter, and a little more on the scholarships.
Okay.
Let's go for it.
So, should I start with the jobs first and then...
No, I will ask you a question and then you will respond to it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's start.
Okay. So, when did you start your job as a student assistant?
So my first job here was as a tutor for machine learning. It was in
Inforce.
No. So the first contract that I signed was for machine learning tutorship. And after 3 or 4 days, there was this opportunity I got where I knew this Inforce. There are interviews going on and I was invited for the interview. And the funny thing is they required someone who's good in Java. But my proficiency is in Python. And I just told them one thing very honestly, that I do not know Java, but I'm pretty sure I can get your work done better than that can be done in Java. And I spoke it very confidently and that was why I was hired. So yeah, I worked, I basically worked on a computer vision task and our clients were Volkswagen. That was very interesting and different from what my interests are. And then I also worked as a research assistant for designing a system for the Eurolix dataset. So basically, it was a natural language processing. There are some laws that the European Union makes and they are fixed laws. And then the new proposals come in. So my job was that whatever new proposals come in, I have to map it to the existing laws. So they have a nice system. So it was a retrieval task. And this was also a very interesting task. It's still going on. So the idea was it started as a project, but then it was so huge that it turned into my hobby. And then my next job was because I love teaching, I tried to look for tutorships. And the next job was this Introduction to Deep Learning thing. It was also very nice. It was a nice experience because it was practical. And it was the first online Corona thing where I had to teach it. So yeah, it was funny. It was nice.
We come to the next question. You have been a tutor of the machine learning course for 2 semesters now and the Introduction to Deep Learning course for 1 semester. Now the machine learning course is a course that people in the younger semesters take. An ideal course is a course that students take in their 3rd or 5th semester. What kind of differences do you see in the education systems, the ones that we had back in India and here in the German education system? And you have seen students falter, I believe. You have seen students succeed and falter. What would be your tips to the students so that they do not falter?
I mean, the very first thing is that we are not used to listening to our professors because we think that whatever is in the book is being taught and that's it. We can read from the books and get over it. And that's how our examinations are also designed. In India, mostly, you get everything from you can have a book open and you can solve it. But here, not for all the subjects, but some subjects, you need to be very conceptually sound to be able to answer those questions. Meaning, have a book open in front of you and if you don't know anything, you won't be able to solve it. And that's what we do not understand. Students here do not understand. They copy the assignments. I'll talk about machine learning. There are team formations. a team of 4, one person does the assignment and everyone else copies. I as a tutor know that they're doing it. I tell them don't do it because if they don't want to go into the data science field, they have to learn programming. And it's very, very, very simple programming. And then they do not study weekly, or they do not have a fixed format of studying. They just study one day before the exam or 1 week before the exam. And then they end up failing or getting a bad grade. I mean, grades actually do not matter if you want to say they are not telling how successful you are, but here they do matter in some things, like getting a job. I mean, getting 2.0 and getting 3.0, it makes a difference. Let's just put it like this. I mean, you can have a bad day in the exam, but you need to know the concepts nicely. So that's where they falter. They're not honest, not to themselves, and that is the problem, I guess. And for example, in machine learning, you do not do the assignments, and then you go to the deep learning thing. And how Professor Stober has designed this course is that he assumes that if the person has passed machine learning, he'll surely know such and such stuff. But you did not do it honestly, and then the course looks very difficult for you. And we are not used to reading. We are used to, okay, yeah, someone will teach us and get over with it. And because it's a research institute, the first habit that you should have is, okay, I read some stuff. Reading does not mean reading every line, highlighting those funnily every word that we used to do, but glancing what is important and what is not. So in ideal, if it's an 80-page assignment, trust me, only 20 pages are important if you glance it, and it hardly takes 3 hours. So that's all. You need to sit and you need to give your 100%, and everything is easy. I mean, I'm not one of those students who are very smart, like I cannot get a concept in 5 minutes, but yes, I give my 100% and then I get the concept. And it is doable, very much doable, along with other stuff.
From what you said, I take these things back. That people should do their own assignments. They should have a fixed schedule for studying.
Yeah.
They should read.
Reading is very important. Means you have to sit, you have to read, and you have to know what to read. If you get a 7 or let's say example 100-page long paper, you should know what is important in this 100 pages. And when you skim through it, when you know and there are courses like PPSW which teach you these things, what is important and what is not. So you should know what is important, and those 100 pages boil down to just 10 or 20. Trust me, I've done it and it helps. So just to know what the concept is, not knowing, okay, experimental details, they do not matter.
I have seen students who shy away from interacting with the faculty, I mean the professor and the tutor. Does that matter?
It matters a lot. So we'll talk about this and how I got my scholarship, but your professors have to know you. You might be a very excellent student getting a 1.0 in everything, but if your professor does not know you, it's of no use. Because you need your recommendations here. Networking is very important. And it's not that how you know your professor. Maybe even if you're a very good student, you must still have doubts, right? And every time you get a doubt, try asking the professor first and then try forming your own groups. But you need to talk to them.
Okay. Now we go to the next segment of my questions, which deals with scholarship. Again, lot of congratulations because you got the Otto von Guericke scholarship, which is very prestigious.
Yeah, thank you.
And you're the first student of data and knowledge engineering to get this scholarship.
Yeah,
it's more than an award. And Professor Spiliopoulou was more than elated.
Yes, she was very happy, and she was midway to jump.
Okay.
She was very happy.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about that.
Okay. So first I'll talk about scholarships in general. There are some scholarships that do you have notifications from maybe Fin or maybe OVGU or maybe whichever department you belong to, you get the notifications which are for the financial aid. I mean, you're a good student, but then you are struggling to find a job. So they send, 300 euros per month, and you need to send your transcripts with a cover letter, things like this. So everyone gets these notifications. Then there are some scholarships like this Otto von Guericke scholarship or DART awards, which your professors have to recommend someone. So how it works is every faculty nominates just one person. So from Fin, only one person can be nominated. Or from other department, mechanical engineering, another person has to be nominated. And then it's a joint decision which one gets it. And for that, I will link back to what I said, that your professors need to know you. You might have 1.0s everywhere and you still are not known to your professors. So like this, I was recommended by Professor Spilupulu, who is the coordinator of DKE, and she was very happy because she wanted someone from DKE to get it. Before I tell you why I got it, there are some things that I want to tell you. I think why most of the students do not get it. Having jobs is important. They help you survive, yes. But having say 5 jobs or 6 jobs or 7 jobs, you are not doing anything for the university. You are doing everything for yourself. You're getting money in your own account. It's not helping university in any ways. So having a job while working is a plus point for your application, but I mean university is not benefited from it. And then there are some students who, after finishing off their credits, try to get into initiatives. Okay, let me join now maybe academic club, or let me join mentoring initiative, or let me join ECUS. But the thing is, the whole idea is that you have to help people when you also have something else on your mind. I mean, how can they differentiate between a person who is helping you when he or she does not have anything in their hand? It's a selfish thing then. I think of it as a selfish thing, and I even asked them. So why I got it. So they were, I'll break down into the areas. They said one was the extracurricular part. I'll talk about each of the areas, but there were 4 or 5 main things. Extracurriculars, then academics, for sure. Research other than academics, and the jobs. Jobs can be HIVIs or student jobs or anything. So for extracurricular activities, like I said, I did not get it because I started doing it in my 4th semester. I did it as soon as I could. I was involved in my 1st semester also because I was saying, oh, academic club is doing good work. Or maybe I got to know through you only, right, about the academic club because we were in touch. And then I thought about this, why not join it in my 2nd semester? Then there was a mentoring initiative. So I joined both of them while I had my workload as well. And that gives a very good impression that the person is not selfish enough to just think about him or her. And because I was part of organizing events which were successful and helpful for the students, like for this recruitment event where the recruiters were called and they were told, they shared their ideas about how they recruit other people, which actually was received nicely. Or for example, mentoring program, where you had to guide the students of what can be good for them, what cannot be good for them, things like this. So this counted on my CV or the application for the scholarship. The second thing is the academics. So obviously you cannot ignore the academics. Because my grade is 1.3 overall, which along with the extracurriculars that added upon that. So it's not that you only do extracurriculars and do not focus on your studies. Academics are equally important. So this 1.3 was a very plus point for me. Then the research other than the academics. So I have already published 2 scientific papers. So I have contributed to the university in a way other than the jobs I had. I mean, yes, everyone does ask me why don't I go for student jobs outside Magdeburg, because according to them I can get high amount of money. But the thing is, I'm interested in research, and I thought maybe if I'm not getting money for it, I'm learning and I'm contributing to the system, and this was seen as a very nice point. Then the 4th one was jobs. So because I had been tutor for 2 of the subjects already, then worked as a research assistant for NLP tasks and for this computer vision tasks, this also added. So the overall profile was evaluated, and how I got this opportunity was I'm still working. So one of the publications I talked about is with Professor Spilupulu. We are aiming towards finishing our paper. So while I was working, she got to know about my journey, about my subjects and how I'm doing. And Dr. Kul already knew me because of academic club and mentoring. So both of them decided to recommend me from Finn because they thought I deserve it. I mean, it was very shocking. Actually, I was on a solo trip to Greece because I was very frustrated with my studies. And yes, I do get frustrated. And I did not have a job because I did not look for it. And my bank account was going down. And this professor had just recommended me, and then it had been 1 week, no result, and I forgot about the scholarship thing coming in. And on my last day when I was coming back, I just scrolled through my phone to see that, okay, what are the mails? Because for 1 week I had not opened my phone. I was like, get away with everything. And then I said, oh, congratulations, you have won this scholarship. And I could not believe it was real, for real. It was a very, very nice moment for me. And then I even asked them that, what was it that you saw? Because the thing is, it is not just by the university. It is a joint collaboration by the government and the university. So there were many, many participants going for it. So every international student from Hochschule, from our university, and every department. So then these were the 4 main groups that they joined into. The best thing they liked was that I had started it very, very early in my journey. Means I know you also do all this, but
I don't have 1.3 as the grade.
that's okay, because you made some mistakes like you always accept.
Yeah,
but the thing is, and because if this is the message for the new people coming in, especially if you want to do it, do not do it for your selfish reasons. Do it because you really want to do it, and it would be awarded. So yeah, that was it.
Okay. Now, there would be some obvious follow-up questions.
Mm-hmm.
For example, one section where there can be no questions is a high average, right? Getting a 1.3 is not a matter of joke. It means real hard work going in there.
Okay.
Like my average is touching 2.0.
Doesn't matter.
And maybe after my thesis, it will be 1 point something.
Mm-hmm.
I'll cut this part out when I edit.
Your wish.
Yeah, but having 1.3 is incredible. And I remember Suhita got the DAAD scholarship last year, and she also had one of the highest averages during her masters.
Yeah.
So there can be no questions, and a person really has to study. Regarding extracurriculars, yes, I have seen people trying not to be involved in those because apparently it takes a lot of their time.
Yes.
But since I like being with people and interacting with people, and when I see someone benefited from my little efforts, I feel incredibly happy.
Yes.
So I've been doing this since my graduation days, and this podcast series too is one of these efforts that I have. Most students try some negotiation. Okay,
Yeah.
I will get into academic club. What will I get in return?
Yes.
One person asked me, okay, is the mentoring thing paid? Will I get paid for it?
Exactly.
And I'm like, no. So that. The third is writing papers and contributing to science.
Yeah.
Here, I'm sure students will have questions, and mainly because not many students have papers published.
Yeah.
How does one go about it? How did you go about it?
So the thing is, it is also related to your academic performance. I mean, let's just say this way, people say that they are not biased, but every professor, I'll not say professor, a tutor you work with, the PhDs under those professors, they are biased towards your average grade. They would never say it out loud, but they are. So if they say a good average point, they will think, yeah, this person can do this. And they try giving you the tasks which they want to publish. So it's definitely related with it. And it helped me. So for example, every one of you get those team projects that you work on, but the reports are done and you are done with it, right? But if you ask for individual projects, because it is my third individual project. So whenever I ask for individual projects, the professor asks you, what do you want in return? What is your end goal? And my answer is, I just want to learn. There is no end goal. And I think so it helped me in every way, because they said, okay, if there is no end goal, we would want to publish a paper and help everyone in some way out of this thing. So you have to make an effort. You have to tell them that you are really interested in this just for learning. And if they see that you are here just for learning, they would want to include that in their PhD work. and that automatically gets published because they need to themselves have some publications to complete their PhD, and professors always need publications, you know that. So,
Okay.
but I'll say everyone is biased towards your grades. I mean, I saw it personally myself. I would not name. But yeah, they see your grade, they think you are capable enough to do it. They'll ask you to do it. But if you do not have good grades, just tell them that I'm really interested in it. I am not here for just completing my credits. Because I'll talk about this Professor Spilopoulos project. I did not need it actually. I mean, for credits, I could have done DME or other subjects and I would have started my thesis. But the thing was, I never worked with time series data. And I never worked with recommendation systems. And I thought if it is not now, when it would be. And she even asked me that, aren't you towards your end? Don't you want to start your thesis? And I was like, no, I just want to learn it just for fun. And let's talk about thesis. And maybe she liked the attitude, and that's why it's going into the conference paper. So you have to have the right attitude so that the other person approaches you. Okay, let's write the paper. That's how I went about it.
Many students try not to take, single projects because what is mandatory is just one team project.
Yes.
People take that and try to be done with it. So it does actually give an extra edge if you take a singular project and do.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, you took this singular project with Professor Spilopoulos.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm sure after this podcast, there might be a few more students trying to take singular projects, and quite a few of them might say that I don't have any end goal in their mind.
I mean,
right?
end goal is...
So in that case, how would one justify whether at all they are genuinely interested or they are not doing it with some ulterior purpose?
That's
because yours is a successful case, people might try to emulate that.
Yeah, so that's what I talked about, the honesty thing. And professors here are professors and PhDs here are PhDs because of a reason. They cannot be fooled. I mean, you have to be honest. If you have an ulterior motive, you need a credit or you need it for your jobs, just say it out loud. And they guess it according to your questions. They guess it according to how you behave, that what you want. So, for example, for me, I was very honest that I know nothing about this thing, but I am ready to do it. And the questions I asked made her realize that I was honest. But for example, if you're just interested in job for getting it, you will be like, okay, then how can it be used in a business setting? Okay, then how can I use it? You'll ask very specific questions and they're smart enough to judge you. So you have to be very honest. If you have an ulterior motive, just tell it to them. It's okay. Everyone is selfish. Just say it like this. I was selfish for my own learning. That was also selfish. I did not just want it for my job. That's the only difference. Just be honest. And if you really think that your work is good enough, you can ask them, can we publish it? And you can go on.
Okay. Now we come to the fourth part, that is the jobs. Do you think students doing heavy jobs would help inside the university or jobs outside the university? I asked a very naive question, but I think I'll still go with it.
First thing is, depends. Because if you're not at all interested in a job, opportunities in universities, I mean you're not interested in research work, then you will start focusing on student jobs outside it, which will be very much application oriented. But if you really want to work in the research sector, like I do, then I start looking for heavies, small heavies, because the work I did in Mu Sigma as my job before I started my masters, it was very much business oriented, but it does not go into depth. And for example, I'll not talk about very specific details, but you have some input, you are given some problem statement, then you are asked to get some output. They do not give a shit for how you get that output or what that output means. You have to just get it. It's a very application thing. It's okay for some people, then get student jobs. But here, if you really want to understand what's happening, I don't think so. Student jobs, most of the student jobs offer that thing. You have to have something in the research institutes to go into depth. And I mean, if you are good at teaching, I would surely recommend everyone to take up one tutorship, at least in your journey here, because it helps you to learn subject more. For me, I mean, I was good in machine learning, but I learned a lot when I took it for the first time, and I am still learning when I'm doing it for the second time, because you have to be extra conscious what the other student might ask. So you end up learning everything, you end up researching everything, and it helps. So if you're good at it and you think students can be benefited from what your ideas, approach people for the tutorships.
Do you see the grin on my face?
Yeah. Because as a student, I also just read it, okay, done. But I
can tell about myself here. So in my first semester, I took machine learning. I dropped the course because I did not understand anything and I had no home to stay. Nothing, to be very honest. In my third semester, I took machine learning. I was not very sure if I understood the concepts properly and I was very underconfident. I got a bad grade. I started learning machine learning on my fourth semester because by that time I had knowledge of data mining from Professor Spiliopoulou, machine learning, Professor Nuremberger, but mainly Marcus. And then I could sit at one place, consolidate my learning, and then I went through all the course material properly. And then one fine morning, Marcus asked me if I want to be a tutor because Marcus trusted me. And I said, okay, I would want to be a tutor. And then he said, but you have to go through the interview process. And then I went through the interview process and I became a tutor. That first day standing in front of 40 students,
it's scary.
It is scary. One could hear your heart throbbing from the,
I sweated for the first time, but then it gets better.
I was comfortable from the third, fourth, fifth class. Yeah, but yes, before every class, I used to study for 1.5 days, revising, formulating questions that student might ask, and then preparing 3-4 kinds of answer. One abstract, second one is not so abstract, the third one is in absolute detail so that everyone understands. The journey of being a tutor was extremely enjoyable.
Yes, it is. That's why I just take up tutorship jobs. I mean that I'll again repeat. You should see my messages. Everyone asks me, why are you not doing this job? Like there are job opportunities in Munich and Berlin, and
even I had this question long time back. If you remember.
Yeah, you even asked me that why am I not doing it, and I was like, because I don't want to. Because for me, I mean, there are some people who have financial constraints. Even I have them, but I would want to earn a little.
Well, now you don't have, because the amount of money you got, you will survive for 1 full year.
Yeah, I'll survive. Yes, money. But yeah, so why did I get that money? Because I did something, right? It's not for free. So
no one would say that.
Yeah, because I did something, and reason is I would want to have just one job. I am that kind of a person. Reason I just want to have one job is because then other job can go to a person who is doing a physical job maybe. Means I know I can get it, but then that place is also gone. I don't want to be that person taking up all the jobs and not leaving it for the students who actually need it. And I want to concentrate my rest of the thing in learning something new. I mean, I just need minimum amount of money to pay my rent and stuff and food. That's all. I do not like having multiple, that's my personal opinion. People have different opinions. I'm not a very money oriented person, and that helped, right? That it helped me landing up the scholarship. So yeah.
Yes. One final question before I end this conversation. I know that that we love conversing.
Yes.
But this is already 28 minutes plus.
Yes. I can speak a lot.
Yeah, but one final question. If I ask you what would be your 2 takeaways from being a tutor? Because I asked this question because I mentioned it is very fulfilling. At least my journey has been very fulfilling. What would be your 2 takeaways being a tutor for 3 times, 2 times for ML, 1 time for IDL? What would be your 2 takeaway, except for the fact that you learned the courses better because you had to teach someone else?
That is just my perspective. Takeaways, I would want to give takeaways for the students. Be honest. And that might end up you being a tutor. Be honest.
No, I meant your takeaway as
a person, as my tutor. Okay. It's the most interesting job. And this is my one takeaway. It's better than working for someone else, because you're working for yourself, because you're teaching students. Another takeaway is it can also help you getting into the eyes of the professor. So for me, Professor Spilupulu recommended me, Dr. Krull recommended me. So I had three recommenders behind me: Professor Spilupulu, Dr. Krull, and so after seeing my CV, Professor Spilupulu said that...
Who is the third recommender?
I'm getting to it.
Okay.
So because she asked me to make a good application for myself so that she can submit it, because she had to submit it. It goes directly through the professor. Then I was editing it, and I hate writing, but I was doing it, and then she saw that my most of the work is with the DKE group. And then she asked me, will Professor Neurenberger back you up? And I said, yeah, maybe. And because I worked as a tutor under him, I had done a project with Markus Thiel, and I had worked with Johannes also. Means most of his PhDs, he also knew me. So I had his back also. So my first recommenders were Professor Spilupulu and Dr. Krull, but I knew that Professor Neurenberger is also there. So I had 3 people there, and that helped a lot. So tutorships, if you want to see a very personal motive, it helps you get to know the professors as well. So that is another very honest takeaway.
Okay. And I just realized that this conversation is very long and we should consolidate them.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have to consolidate this, the first point would be you get information about scholarship and financial aids from the social media pages of OVGU, from the International Office, from Farafin,
and
etc.
do apply. If you know you have stupid grades, still apply. Nobody knows if you get it or not.
Yes.
Apply.
Few scholarships like the DAAD scholarship and Ottokon Guericke scholarship is via recommendation by the faculty members / professors, for which the most important criteria are grades, your extracurriculars which contributes to the students,
and the university.
Yeah. The third would be your research that contributes to the university.
Yes.
And
apart from academics.
Apart from the normal academics, 90 credits that we do.
Yes.
And the jobs that you do.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else that I missed?
These are the most important points, but the end takeaway would be, and I would want to really emphasize on it, if you want to do something for yourself and for the university, start it from your first or second semester, because if you started from your 4th or 5th semester, nobody gives a fuck about you. You won't end up, like, a very honest thing.
And I have to beep that part out.
Okay.
You realize it, right?
No, but it's okay. But if you really want to do it, the best, like, they also judge your character if they are giving you a scholarship, right? Because it's a huge amount. And if they see that you are selfish, you would not get it. I mean, trust me, they judge your character, because the rector told me the same. Everything was judged. Everything. Because they cannot just hand over 6,000 euros to someone. So you have to be not so selfish. And if you really want to do it, start it from your first or second semester. That is a very important takeaway. I mean, if you're starting from your 5th semester, you're doing it for yourself. At least be honest about it.
Okay. And at that point, and at this point,
yes,
we put an end to this conversation. It's incredible talking with you, as always.
Yes, we talked after a very long time.
Yes, that is because we both are very busy in our lives.
No, I'm not. You can talk to me anytime, but okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi again. I thank you for listening to this episode. Please subscribe if you want further updates. Please share this with your friends to whom this could be valuable. In case you have a query or a feedback, please send me an email to mailme@anirbansaha.com. You could also send me a text on Twitter, Telegram or Skype. My username is Saha Anirban.